Hello all and welcome. My name is Margaret O'Neill. I'm a historical costumer and textile conservator in training, and for today's video we are going to take a look at the oldest bodice in my collection, which is from about 1825 to about 1830. I got this bodice off of eBay for a reasonable price because it was being sold in a lot of other things that were late 19th century. And it's also what I would like to call a wounded bird. She's a little frail, she's a little fragile, she's got some wrinkles, she's got some weirdness going on. But I hope to capture that all on camera for you today because this is an interesting piece, although it may look plain on the outside. So without further ado, I'm going to change the camera angle and we're going to look at this together. Alright, so here she is. This is, of course, as I said, a bodice from the probably second half of the 1820s. You can see it has that, it's sort of between that Regency shape and the 1830 shape. It's got those hyper exaggerated sloped shoulders. It has the very high waistline. This is like right under the bust. And then it has this sort of fuller bust situation. It also has these beautiful little short sleeves with this beautiful silk fringe trim as well. It has this, of course, fuller sleeve over here as well. It's not like Regency sort of skinny mini, but it's also not that full like 1830s extravaganza. As you can see, she's made of black taffeta, which is a little bit hard to kind of show you all the details, but I'll try to get some nice juicy detail shots for you. And it's just a super simple construction. There's literally, it's kind of a wrap style, and there is one eye left, but there would have been hooks, and it just would have hooked in the front like that, and kind of just been held into place like so. So super simple construction. We'll open her up for you. So you can see it's also like uber wrinkly, which is just something I have to take care of, but I don't quite have the proper equipment at my disposal for that at the moment, because this would require probably some humidification. This is not something you would ever want to iron. So as you can see in here, this has been modified. We have that just very standard sort of tobacco colored cotton lining. You see this basically in everything 19th century. It's quite funny. And it is all hand sewn. So you can see here there's long basting stitches with those back stitches. Actually quite neat back stitches. But you can also see here that the lining has been cut out in this triangle shape. I would assume that it was for reuse at some period in time, but it is a very interesting shape to have been cut out. The silk is pretty fragile. You can see here it's shattering a little bit, so we got to handle this with the utmost care. It's also the reason why I don't wear gloves when handling things like this, because gloves can snag. You don't have that tactile feeling that you do with your hands, so clean washed hands is the best way to handle fragile garments. It just has a waistband, and then the skirt, if this had a skirt attached to it at any point, would have been sort of sandwiched between these two, probably. Close this up. All of the seams on this thing are piped. We'll turn around to the back here. See here on the back again, super simple. Got the seam here, the shoulder seam is piped, and then the arm side is also piped on both sides. I just think these little sleeves are just so cute. It's adorable. Again, it's black, so it's a little bit difficult to show. The waistband was pieced here. Super simple construction. The back is literally like one piece, one sort of triangle piece, and then that wraps towards the front, which is all cut in one piece. So the bodice is literally three pieces: back, front, waistband. And then the sleeves have two pieces each with this sort of oversleeve and then the fuller sleeve. You could almost mistake this bodice as 1860s because it is very similar to the 1860s style bodice that you would see, but the slope of the shoulders and the height of the waistline indicates that it is definitely 1820s. Now I want to show you, I think, one of the coolest aspects of this bodice. And again, she's not much to look at, I will say. She's a bit of a plain Jane, a little bit of a fragile plain Jane, but this is really, really cool. So I'm going to show you this up close, but essentially what you've got here is we've got this beautiful mend that has been darned in the upper shoulder, and then what we have is this evidence of it being altered. You can see there are pleats that were taken out along the top. To me, this probably says that this was renovated. To me, this says that this was renovated from an earlier style. I've made a 1790s gown, and I can say that I have put those little pleats at the top of the shoulder on the front. It would be very possible that this piece was, in fact, altered from a 1790s gown. The other thing that's really cool is we do have this one surviving eye, and you see it's sort of flattened. This is handmade. This is pre-industrial hook and eye technology. Unfortunately, we don't have any of the hooks left. I don't know where they got off to, but it is spectacularly stunning little eye there, and that also leads me to believe that this piece is much earlier, since in the 1860s, if you've ever seen an 1860s hook and eye, it does not look like that. But again, this bodice does have significant condition problems. We've talked about the wrinkles, but it also does have this very large hole in one of the sleeves. Check out the sleeves. They're very simple. Again, they have a little bit of a cuff at the bottom, which is adorable. And then they are lined with a sort of tarlatan-like material, a bit more open weave cotton than the tobacco lining of the interior. That little oversleeve is also lined in that same sort of open weave tarlatan, and the fringe is just tacked on with running stitches. So you can see, though, the lining of the sleeve does not start until the oversleeve stops, which is a very interesting choice. And the sleeve is, of course, put on by hand and overcast, which is super, super cool. This is also a relatively small bodice. I would say it would fit a modern US size 0 to 2, although that is not a perfect comparison. So I hope you liked this little tour of this bodice. It was short and sweet, mostly because this is a pretty simple bodice, but also shows construction from a period that is sort of, I think, understudied in historical fashion, and definitely doesn't have as many extant garments available in private study collections. I hope you enjoyed the tour of the bodice. You can, of course, follow me here on YouTube by hitting the subscribe button down below. I do little study collection tours and flip-throughs of antique magazines, as well as my sewing adventures. Right now I'm doing an 1860s changeable gown, and we are waiting for some things to come in the mail before we can really proceed with that, but don't worry, it's going very well. Things are coming along. And sometimes I also do more in-depth dress history videos when I have the time. I have one coming soon, hopefully. Otherwise, you can follow me over on Instagram at costumeandconservation, where you can get sort of more real-time updates on my sewing projects. And you can also follow me over on TikTok at costumeandconservation, where I do mini study tours as well as answering your questions about what else but costume and conservation. So I hope you have a lovely day, and I will see you next week. Bye!